Now, let's take a look at Polypaint. Polypaint is done using the paintbrush. With this brush, you can paint directly onto the mesh using any color selected from the color palette. However, keep in mind that the paint resolution depends on the number of vertices in your mesh. If the mesh has low resolution, the paint will appear blurry. So, make sure your mesh has a decent amount of resolution before painting. All color-related settings are found in the color menu. You can store two colors, a main color and a secondary color. When you change the color in the color palette, it updates the main color. To switch between the main and secondary colors, use the Switch Color button or the V hotkey. As you may have noticed, when you change the main color, the mesh appears to change color. However, this is only a preview. To apply the main color permanently to the mesh, click the Fill Object button in the color menu. Now your mesh has a fixed color assigned and you can start painting over it with the paintbrush. Let's revisit the relationship between resolution and Polypaint. As an example, I've placed a low-resolution sphere on the right and a higher-resolution one on the left. You'll see that the edges of the paint appear blurry on the low-res sphere. Also, when painting, make sure Z-Add and Z-Sub are turned off. If either of these is on, you'll end up sculpting while painting, so be careful. You can control the paint strength using the RGB intensity slider. Lowering this value makes it easier to create soft gradients and is useful for building up color gradually. If painting doesn't seem to work, check whether the RGB button is turned on. If it's off, the stroke won't apply any color at all. You can also adjust the brush edge using the focal shift slider. Setting it to -100 will give you a very sharp, defined brush edge. By default, the paintbrush has lazy mouse enabled, which means there's some spacing between the brush strokes. The lazy mouse works like a stabilizer to help reduce shaky lines. If you want tighter control over your brush, you can turn lazy mouse off. Go to the stroke menu and disable lazy mouse. Now you should be able to paint more smoothly and precisely. The smooth brush also works with Polypaint. It lets you soften the edges of your painted strokes. However, make sure Z-Add is off, otherwise you'll smooth the mesh geometry as well, not just the paint. Next to the RGB button, you'll find an M icon. This stands for material. If you turn this on, you can assign materials to your mesh instead of color. To assign a material, click the material thumbnail. You'll see a list of materials, including recently used ones, matte caps, standard materials, and redshift materials from Maxon. Matte caps have fixed lighting, while standard materials respond to lighting changes. Standard materials are better suited for high-quality rendering. Just like with color, you'll want to click Fill Object to apply a material to your mesh. If you want to adjust lighting, go to the Light menu. You can change light direction, add or remove lights, and adjust light color or intensity. To paint both color and material at the same time, make sure to select MRGB button.